Hello, everybody, and welcome again to another episode of the Bitcoin News Show. We're here with you again on this Monday evening at 8 p.m. Pacific. Right here, we've got a couple of guests tonight talking Bitcoin again. It's been a while since we've been here, but I'd like to finally welcome everybody back, and it's really glad to be back on air to talking about Bitcoin here. We got our guest tonight, Daniel from You and Me BTC. How you doing, man?
Pretty good. Glad to be back.
Awesome. We got Gabriel, of course, joining us from Gabriel Divine from Future Rant.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. Thanks for being on the show. So let's see, guys. You know what? I think we're going to jump right in. We got people joining in here live all the time. So, we're here every Monday, every other Monday at 8 p.m. Pacific. We're actually here live on Blab. So anybody can join in. Anybody can join in the show, be a part of the show via joining in video or join us in the chat. This really is meant to kind of introduce people to Bitcoin, as well as try to find people who want to talk about Bitcoin. Because we have a show that we upload, a network that we upload to called the World Crypto Network, and so we're really trying to get as many people as we can to talk about Bitcoin, to spread the word even farther about Bitcoin. So let me know if you guys ever want to have an invite to the World Crypto Chat. Let us know. Drop us a tweet on Twitter. We're here all the time. The actual chat room, the Slack chat, is really great. World Crypto Slack chat. We talk about Bitcoin in there all the time and share links. We got a bunch of stuff in there talking about Bitcoin. I think we even have some RSS feeds in there and all sorts of good stuff. So let's get, without further ado, let's get right into it, ladies and gentlemen. We have the show notes pasted. You'll always be able to find the show notes below as well. So the first thing I'd like to talk about today, let me just paste this in here, is a tweet by Roger Ver. So before I read the tweet, I just want to say that, I recently watched him on a show, and I forget the show that he was on, but, he really got a chance to express his opinion. He was actually on there with Eric Voorhees as well. And they were on the show together, and they, really expressing their point about, we really need to increase the block size fast and stuff like that. And really what struck me was how they really together shared the same feeling about how they were from the original part of Bitcoin. So they really felt like they got betrayed because they signed on for a digital payment cash network, a digital cash payment network. That's the paper that Satoshi wrote. That's what he wrote on the paper. And so they really wanted to sign up for, Bitcoin everywhere, Bitcoin for coffee, Bitcoin right now, as fast as possible. And what's really happening here is that when Bitcoin was launched, there was no other cryptocurrencies. And so what's happening now is that Bitcoin is fulfilling an additional purpose, in addition to being digital cash, because of course you can use it as digital cash today right now. It's really fulfilling this purpose of digital gold as well. And what it's ending up becoming is this backing currency that all these other cryptocurrencies are always traded in and backed up by. So what's ended up happening is that because we have this huge landscape of cryptocurrencies, we're able to get currencies that are out there that are better for cash purposes. We have all sorts of different myriads of things that are super faster, meant for instant transactions. And of course, we'll have awesome additions in the future like Lightning Network and things that will actually be added into Bitcoin over time because, of course, it continues to evolve. But right now, I think that I think that we really need to focus on Bitcoin as more of this huge store of value, as more of this digital gold, be able to back everything up. Because here's really the bottom line, what I want to get to, is that Bitcoin is not just a payment network, right? It's a payment network, it's a token, it's a myriad of different things that we can build on top of too. It's the internet of money. And with this network, we first have to be able to have a steady store of value. Once we have this steady store of value, we can then build a cash payment network and payment channels on top of that. And when you do that, you have a solid foundation. You can't build a currency first and then build, any type of store of value after that, because we see what ends up happening. You basically get fiat, and that's not what we want. We want a true decentralized payment system, and we want a true decentralized cash payment system. And whether that comes on top of Bitcoin through Lightning Network and things like that, or we actually just seed it out to another currency, that particular use case scenario, Bitcoin will still be there fulfilling the actual value, the main backing value, the global reserve currency. So, I understand that, you felt like you got betrayed a little bit, and, Eric as well, and maybe a bunch of the early Bitcoin people. maybe felt like they got betrayed as Bitcoin continues to evolve. But we also have to remember that Bitcoin is going to always change. I mean, the example that Andreas gave is Ethernet. That has undergone so many changes. It's no longer really Ethernet. It's a million different things. So it's Bitcoin, as it continues to evolve, is not going to be the Bitcoin of yesterday. And what we can do is make sure that it is decentralized, secure, censorship resistant, and borderless. That's the main things that we can do. Make sure it always has 21 million coins, the basics. And for all these other amazing purposes that are going to come along, there's going to be cryptocurrencies for them. There's going to be a cryptocurrency for everything. And so basically that was my response that I wanted to say to Roger and to a lot of the early adopters who maybe feel like they got kind of screwed over as Bitcoin continues to evolve and changes into something maybe not exactly like they were originally envisioning, but still able to bring freedom of finance to the entire planet. So on this note, first I'd like to ask Gabriel to see what he likes, what he thinks on this subject. What do you think as far as what I said and as far as the tweet? And actually, sorry, Gabriel, before I do that, I better read out the tweet.
I'll read it. Why don't I read it? And then
Gabriel, go ahead. Yeah, please.
This is what Jihan Wu, who is the CEO of the largest Bitcoin mining company, according to Roger Ver. This is the quote: "Not appropriate at all." I don't know what that's referring to. The high fee policy will make Bitcoin a loser in the competition, just as eBay China lost the competition with Taobao. Taobao was and is free, while eBay China charged very high fee. Don't feel too safe about Bitcoin's leading position. Taobao used to be so small when comparing with eBay, but now in China there's no one using eBay and everyone uses Taobao. High fee policy killed eBay China. Totally inaccurate comparison. That is not an analogy for Bitcoin and its altcoins. A centralized corporation that has a profit motive and is providing a auction platform is completely different from a peer-to-peer form of electronic cash. That is not an accurate and when you make an analogy like that, that's so different, you're in danger of not only it being totally irrelevant, but actually being opposite, which is, I think, possibly the case here. We've got a situation where Veer, who I've not made no bones about the fact I think he's a cipher. I think he's a no one. He's a classic libertarian who got lucky with his Bitcoin investment. He was early on that, and that's great. And he deserves the wealth that he gained from the risk that he took, just like Voorhees does. But at least Eric Voorhees is a successful entrepreneur. He knows how to build a business and run a business. Veer has made some investments that have impacted the space, which is great. But literally everything he says, I think is either worthless or wrong. And it's always been the case. I don't think he's a good speaker, and I don't think his rhetoric is worth anything. He doesn't think about what he says. He's not a deep thinker. He's not a person that I admire in this space at all, unlike somebody like Andreas Antonopoulos, who you referred to earlier, Vortex. Regarding the argument about Bitcoin's changing face according to how Veer and Voorhees understood it, I would put that up to two things. One, they're not core developers. They're not even really developers at all. Voorhees is an entrepreneur. He's an exec, and I don't know what Veer is. He's a nobody, as far as I'm concerned. The developers, I'm sure, were all very much aware that the stored value and decentralization of the network were very, very important and could not be sacrificed under any circumstances. It's just that it wasn't really used much, until 2013-14, and people didn't even really have to think about it that much. And once the blocks started filling up and people were like, shit, we're really going to actually, we really need more than 3 to 7 transactions per second. This is a real thing now. That they really thought about it and were like, well, geez, that whole cache idea is not necessarily compatible with a system that needs to get consensus so often and for such a high volume of data. And so the core developers made that decision in order to retain the the reliability of the network. And it's totally ridiculous to me that non-programmers are going ahead with these opinions that are totally ill-informed and completely ignore what you just spoke about, Vortex, which is you have to have a reliable store before you can transact. You can't pretend like you can create this reliable system for moving around money without it being resistant to censorship. And that is the main, as Tone Bays often points out, that is the main feature, the top, absolute most important feature of Bitcoin is that nation states and other actors like corporations, anybody cannot just go and smash it apart, kill it, even with guns, even with bombs, even with laws, even with lawyers, even by complaining, even with propaganda and marketing and PR. None of those can destroy Bitcoin. It's censorship resistant, or none of those are likely to. It's extremely resistant to those things. And by advocating for a higher block, you're undermining the decentralization and undermining the censorship resistance. So these are just, I think they're basically just not very intelligent at these very admittedly sophisticated game theoretical, economic, software paradigms that are being created for the last 7 years. They're very sophisticated, and not everybody understands them. I understand there are some people that are for higher blocks that do understand those things too, but they're very much in the minority, and it's generally considered to be the truth among the informed people that it's more risky to raise the block size, not less risky. And so what I have to say to Voorhees and especially Roger Ver is, you signed up for something based on your limited understanding. Turns out you were wrong. Deal with it.
Okay, very very cool, very very cool. So first, hey Blake, thanks for joining us, man.
Hey, sorry I'm late.
Oh, no problem, man. Welcome anytime. Welcome anytime. We're a laid back show here. We just like to talk about Bitcoin any way we can. So Gabriel, first of all, so really quick. So yeah, you know what? I definitely like the points that you said, and I really like what you said. You know, like you have to understand about the store value. You know, and so I guess I think you pretty much nailed it on that. And you know, we know that Roger. I just want to say that we know that Roger Ver is smart. We know that these people are smart. Eric is smart. You know, we know these people are smart and intelligent. It's just that you know, again, they signed up, like you said, I think, for something a little bit different than what actually it's evolving into. And really what it's going to evolve into is just so many things that nobody can really predict. So you just can't be, you know, too upset when Bitcoin starts evolving and does even more amazing things than you could ever possibly imagine. You know, right? So let's I just want to address that. So first let me hear Daniel, your opinion on this, and then we'll go to Blake and I'll explain. I'll fill you in, Blake, before you start. Go ahead, Daniel.
Yeah, so I generally agree overall with a lot of what he said. I might say that I think this tweet is a little more important, more relevant than maybe Gabriel was suggesting. The block size obviously is a big thing. We beat it to death on our show. We've talked about it on this show before, and you know, there's a bunch of talk, both sides, whatever. I would address just strictly the Roger's own tweet. No, this I guess was the quote, but he says the high fee policy will make Bitcoin a loser. Scratch the loser. I don't see Bitcoin losing anytime soon, but the high fees, I think that will be a pretty strong influence because we started our show, I don't know. Well, no, I got into Bitcoin, I think like 2012. And it didn't take long, even back then, even when the standard fee, you know, the Bitcoin price was so low and the standard fee was so low, so that it was like literally a fraction of a penny was the standard fee. and the block reward was 50. I mean, it was huge, so the miners didn't need your fees. Even back then, it only took us about 3 or 4 months of saying, oh, yeah, Bitcoin, you send free transactions. Everything's free. It's amazing. Even then, when it was so cheap, it only took a few months for us to say and to kind of realize, wait a minute, it is really cheap and that is really awesome. But we have to remind all of our listeners, it's not really free. It costs money. There is a fee, and eventually the block reward's going to go away. And now we're seeing that happening. The Bitcoin price is going up. I don't even know if there is a standard fee anymore with all the wallets out there, but the Bitcoin value is going up. The fees are going up, the transaction fees that are kind of expected or standard, and the block reward is going down, which means the miners are going to need more to get by. So all that to say is just the fees are going to be a serious factor, I think, especially give it another how long is it happening? Every like 2.5 years or something?
3.5 to 4.
Every 4 years, yeah, roughly.
Okay, 4 years. So give it another decade. The Bitcoin price should be way higher. The volume should be, well, I guess volume actually reduces fees. I guess it depends on block size. Yeah. But anyway, point is, as the block reward vanishes, fees are going to be a factor. And and efficiency, that comes to, I mean, he talks about the competition between eBay and whatever, Taobao or whatever that was. I get that that's not a completely fair competition or comparison, but in any market anywhere, you obviously, as hopefully I think we're all kind of free market oriented, we know that if something is cheaper and provides a similar or the same service, then, people are going to drift towards that. And because Bitcoin is the first of its kind ever, I could easily see another cryptocurrency come along that's just it's a really, now it's hard at this point, like you say. Bitcoin is a lot like gold at this point, where it's got a lot of history, a lot of value, and it as time passes, it's going to become harder to affect. But if something comes along and it provides the same cryptography, the same limits, and they have different mining algorithms or just some different ideas that make it half as much or 10% as expensive to mine and process and operate, okay, that's going to be impactful. I mean, smaller fees are going to attract people. And so yeah, I guess that's all of that is kind of my point. Is I don't see Bitcoin going anywhere, but I think fees are going to rise and they are going to play much more of a role than some people think or realize.
That's cool. Yeah, that makes sense.
I'd like to respond to a couple of those points just really briefly.
Go ahead.
Number one, the block reward. The halving is not going to reduce the value of the rewards. I think we all recognize the importance of this technology and the incredible impact that we predict it's going to make on society. And I think there's very few Bitcoin supporters who don't think that the Bitcoin price, not price, but value in society, the worth of each unit isn't going to more than double every 4 years for at least a couple decades. I mean, maybe at the point of 30 to 40 years from now, or I think really 100 years from now, that's when you're going to start seeing the block rewards being so small that the fees are really going to need to make up the difference. I don't really think we need to plan that far ahead because of exponential technologies. I think Bitcoin, we need to really focus on this next few decades. It's very likely to be disrupted by the mid 21st century, in my opinion. So I really don't think that's that the fees are ever going to need to pick up the slack in Bitcoin realistically in society.
So did you say it is likely to be disrupted within 40 years, or it's not likely to?
I think it is likely, not within, but around, maybe around that time. 75, okay. Whatever. So
I think that's
we've got several decades possibly where it might not be, but I'm pretty sure.
But at that point, Bitcoin would be insanely valuable, and the world would have flipped at that point to cryptocurrencies.
Right. That's what I think. Yeah, and I think we might move into a post-scarcity, post-monetary era entirely. We wouldn't have the need for a scarce asset to represent something scarce. But it's possible that it could last longer. But I really don't think we need to worry about that at all. The world is going to look so different by the time we have what the fees need to be coming into the equation. So I don't think that's really valid for us. And regarding the use cases of Bitcoin as a transactional platform being overtaken by altcoins that might have a slightly different feature or just be smaller and provide less security for less of a fee, that is not a direct competition. That's once again different than Taobao versus eBay, which they provided nearly exactly the same feature set, and one cost money and one didn't. And so that's a very different situation where you've got an altcoin, say Ethereum, right? It's got a far, far lower security and hash rate, and it's also got a lower transaction fee to go along with that, I think. So if we have tiny altcoins that have much lower security, can be hacked on a whim, sure, you pay a zillionth of a penny. Or you have Litecoin, which also provides less security, so then your transaction fee is less. I don't think of that as competition, but it is possible that a Dash or some sort of greater fungibility or some other coin that provides some killer function, and then you have the possibility for a temporary flow of wealth into that altcoin. But once again, you can, especially with version bits and soft forks, we've got a lot of upgrade paths for Bitcoin moving forward too.
Oh shoot! I that's something I meant to bring up, which you mentioned briefly, Vortex. But yeah, I was saying, I agree with you, Gabriel, that it's a smaller fee doesn't necessarily mean it's just as good. I was just trying to say, like, if it did provide the same service legitimately for a smaller
the possibility of that happening is almost zero, in my opinion. There's almost no chance of any network being able to grow to the scale and the security of Bitcoin without having the exact same problems, unless it's a totally different paradigm, like MaidSafe, for example.
Right. I can generally agree with that. I agree that it's unlikely. I was just trying to make the point that fees are part of the market, and if something's really cheaper, then it's going to draw some attention. But I get your point that it's unlikely to happen. But then also, like you said, even if there was an innovation that did something like that, it's very likely that we could make it part of Bitcoin, like we said, the Lightning Network or something like that. So, or we could just improve Bitcoin so that it is more efficient. We don't have to make a new coin or a new paradigm to be more efficient necessarily. Maybe we could just put that into Bitcoin.
It's true, and I think as Gabriel said, by the time Bitcoin rips through this world in 10 or 20 years, it's going to look extremely different. And so before I go to Blake, or when I just want to say after I go to Blake, I'm going to read a couple of the chat comments because a couple of them are pretty good. And I'd like to read one of the tweet replies to Roger Ver's tweet, which is a pretty good question. So first, Blake, go ahead and let's hear your response.
Man, it's difficult going at the end because I can't even remember where you started and where my brain began.
Real quick, I recommend, Gabriel and I, we take notes. So when you think of something, write it down real quick. I'm telling you, dude, it works. It's awesome. It works for the show really good. But
I need a better office. Yeah, I'm sitting in a chair.
You want me to repeat anything or
paper? No, I'm good.
Okay.
I can tap dance. So, all right. For the first thing I want to say was there's a big difference between value and perceived value, and I think what the market perceives as valuable on a scale is going to be different than what an individual, like for instance, like I'm coming from an economic mindset, a business mindset, so cost of something matters to me and the efficiency and what it works. So recently, like I made a transaction on my Celium that had transactions coming in on a daily basis for a miner, a cloud miner that I get paid out daily. and I think it was 0.005 Bitcoins for a normal transaction fee, which after I sent it, I looked at them like, shit, I just paid $2.50 for a transaction of Bitcoin. And that was just, it was on the normal setting, and I didn't even think about it. So, I mean, that bothered me only because I know where the transaction's coming from. And so for my mindset, and again, I don't have the technical background. So my business thinking is raising the block size 1 megabyte doesn't appear to be a scientific technological leap that can't be done. And if it increases the throughput, I don't understand why it's a bad thing. But I don't have the technical background to back up that statement other than gut instinct. Gut instinct says that it's doable, but there are competing interests, and those competing interests are what make me pause. But me personally, I've been playing around in Ethereum since January, just because I think from what I think it could do and what it could become, that's really exciting from a business standpoint. So, and I think Bitcoin, like, instead of it being an altcoin, I see it more as a side chain. Like, without Bitcoin, there would be no baseline for the value creation in the crypto world. So that was the original chain, and from that, more chains came about, like the Ethereum blockchain and the crypto list of market cap. So this, I get agitated when I start having arguments about the maximalist thinking. Like, I've been in a few of those arguments, and maximalism on any side doesn't seem to make sense, especially in this space, because value is being created because of perception and cryptography and electricity. So,
and they work so well together,
magically.
Bitcoin and Ethereum, and it's just amazing. And we're only seeing the beginning of it. But sorry to interrupt.
No, and like when rootstock comes out, like everyone's like, whatever, Ethereum's gonna die when rootstock comes out, or rootstock is gonna die. Like, the very first thing that's probably gonna happen is there's gonna be a rootstock to Ethereum relay station built, and hey, awesome, that multiplies the value chain. So, like, I see the long-term future being growth of the top 3, 4, maybe 5 chains, and each one of them, the market perceives them as valuable for different reasons, for different on different levels. So those chains will grow, and that'll be good for the entire space.
Yep, very, very, very true. So, very true. I just wanted to first, I'm going to read the actual question before I go into the chat comments to this tweet. So Neil Woodfine asked, Tobio said to Roger Ver, Tobio has no listing fees, but has high sales commissions like eBay. Why hasn't other competition beaten it? Why haven't they beaten it? Well, so that's kind of a good question, So we'll see what happens. If anybody wants to respond to that, they can. Otherwise, I'm going to start just reading a couple of these chat comments here. Let's see. Yeah. So, but it's like, yeah, why can't BTC be like gold with a rarer usage? Well, it's going to be like gold, and currency and all sorts of other things that we can't imagine yet. Let's see. There's a couple other ones I thought. Let's see. Yeah, he says before the Butter Zone says, before then, miners should be selling at a loss, no matter how halved the reward is. Yeah, I mean, people are, the miners, that's another thing that nobody mentioned, here yet, is that the miners are going to be holding on to their coins as well. I mean, that creates huge amounts of pressure to be able to bring the price up as well, and to just hold value in general. I mean, we know that Bitcoin is electricity converted into value, right? So, like, all of that electricity, all of that value is still being held in there, no matter what. So let's see here. Even if the fee goes down, or even if the fee raises. Okay, I think that's about it. Okay, cool. All right, guys, so thanks so much for weighing in on that topic. Let's see, before we move on to the next one, I'd just like to ask everybody to go ahead and tweet out if you can. There's a tweet button on the left, but if that doesn't work, you can, of course, manually tweet it. That'd be great. Tweet out and Facebook out the show. Let everybody know we're talking Bitcoin. The link there, of course, is at the top. We're going to move on to like our first main topic here, which is going to be, let's see, here it is. I'm going to paste it in. 5 factors experts say drove Bitcoin's price to 700. So before we get into it, I just want to say, on this, we know the main reason for the rising of the price is going to, of course, be the halving, right? That's going to kind of be the top main incentive for the price rising. The price has to rise so that miners can still be profitable, and the price has to rise because, of course, we know that there's more limited supply of this very, very finite resources, very limited resources. So I'd also like to first get everybody's comments on it, and then just like to go through a few of these reasons real quick and get everybody's opinions on that. So first, let me go ahead and go to Daniel and get your opinion on this, man. Tell me, why do you think the price is rising so much like it is?
I would agree that the halving is probably number one. I don't know. This might be. I don't know. Yeah, I guess it has to be. I have to say that part of it might be. I mean, part of the reason that the halving might be so powerful could be due to a little bit of a misconception. Not really a misconception, but people look at the halving and they assume, oh, the fees go, that the reward goes down, so the price must go up, and they don't buy Bitcoin necessarily because of the halving, and they don't make the price go up necessarily because of the halving. They do it because they think the price is gonna go up because of the halving, and so they buy it for that reason. That doesn't mean that the price shouldn't go up. That doesn't mean that the halving shouldn't make Bitcoin a little bit more scarce, a little bit more valuable. I guess it's just there could be a small sliver of the price right now that could be kind of like a bubble where people are saying, oh, I think the price is going to go up because of the halving, so I'm going to buy it because I think the price is going to go up. Not the worst thing in the world. It's still a free market. People are still buying when they want to and selling when they want to, and obviously, because I love Bitcoin, I think it's undervalued right now. So I don't really have a problem with people buying because they think the price is going to go up, even if they do just think that because of the halving. But yeah, there might be a sliver in there that's not really a problem, but just a little bubble-esque where it's just, oh, I'll just buy some because the price is going to go up, and then they'll give it a couple months and it might level off, and they might be like, well, that was fun, I'm going to sell it now because there we are. I don't know. Anyway, yeah. The other ones here are Brexit, and there's one. Isn't there another?
Yeah. I think you're here. I'll read real quick. We got against the state role. Let's see. Role threat effect. Okay, so here we go. Threat of a Fed coin. Problematic presentation. Oh, that's the wrong link.
No, it's Brexit.
Good job, Jeff.
Blockchain. Hype, halving, low liquidity, and China.
Okay, so the one head here is inflows and demand, which I think is that the same one? Yep. Okay. I don't know if this is the equivalent to low liquidity, but the demand there, I like that one maybe even more than the halving. I think I said this a few weeks ago on our show. Demand is it's there. It's just completely natural now with Bitcoin, where people they just buy it because it's useful and because they can do stuff with it and because they want it. I mean, obviously this change has been happening for a long time, but I was saying in my show the other day, I've kind of flipped, in the last 3 years or so. It used to be that not everyone, but a lot of people loved Bitcoin kind of ideologically. And okay, it's hard to, it's hard to buy, it's hard to use in some cases. There's not a ton of places where you can spend it, but look, this place accepts it. How cool is that? So let's go buy some and spend it at this place. It was all kind of an ideological thing. Today, it's completely flipped. I'm not saying I don't like it for ideological reasons, but it's just there. It's just useful. Like I can and do buy almost everything with it. Not everything. I can't quite pay my rent with it and stuff and whatever. But with purse.io and with tons and tons of other retailers, I get my vape juice with Bitcoin. It's just there, and it's just useful. And hey, now the price is going up again. There's just demand. Like, hey, let's get it. It's useful. I want it. Let's have it. And average people, there's not nearly as much stigma around it as there used to be. So average people can just be like, yeah, sure, I'll get some. Why not? So that might be my second favorite, maybe my first favorite. I don't know if I'm equating demand and low liquidity correctly there. Well, but I like the word demand.
I still think that there's there's still a bunch of stigma. Of course, we still have a lot of work to do. Still a lot of people that are listening to Mike Hearn and stuff. But what's great though, of course, is the price completely just completely obliterates. See, it works kind of for and against us, right? It works against us when it goes down, but it works for us when it goes up. Because when it goes up, the regular people have just a super difficult time justifying talking bad about Bitcoin. They have just a super difficult time when the price goes up. Just like they have a super very, very, very easy time talking about Bitcoin when the price is going down, right? So it kind of works for us, when it goes. It's funny, to try to hear these people. You hear them; they're all quiet, right? All the Ethereum people are quiet. All these other people all the Bitcoin naysayers are quiet, right? Everybody's freaking quiet. That was against Bitcoin. Mike Hearn's quiet. Everybody's quiet. So it is funny to see Bitcoin quiet the naysayers with its price. Blake, I'd like to hear your opinion on this, man. What do you think?
Yeah.
What's the main factors?
My take on the factors is we're looking at like there's the perception of a black swan event on its way, because I was listing these things off to my mother earlier, actually on the phone. Yeah, so like black swan, it's a culmination of it's the snowflake that started the avalanche. It's like it's gonna happen at some point that something unexpected is going to shake the market, and it's just going to cause a firestorm of exponentially more catastrophic events just in different markets. So because everything's relying on each other, everything's so complex. So the Chinese fleeing the yuan, the devaluations, saw something today on Zero Block about Chinese bank depositors being told that they can't do foreign exchanges indefinitely. The Brexit, just all these different things are culminating together into people are looking for security. So fortunately, I know enough about computers to know that the value of cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin specifically, because it is the most robust. It's going to be valuable in the future, valuable enough to put 50% of your holdings into it. Like I can spend money on it through my Shift card if I need to, but more than likely I'm just holding on to it because the value has a lot more room to grow. I feel like we're in the foothills of a big damn mountain range right now. So
it's just there's just so much upside once you understand it. That's what's funny about Bitcoin is the more you understand it, the more you understand how what value is, and the more you understand value, the more you understand that value itself it really is just us. It's just society. And then when you understand that, you get to the next level, which is eventually when we create all the technology we need to be able to have all the power we need, all the food we need, everything like that. When we have food prices, all of this value is going to go away anyway.
Yeah. Well, and so, I think it's what you just said. It just hit something like it's the trust that we're all going to play in the same game with the same rules, and like. That's never really existed in human existence before. Exactly. Like there's never been a global game that we can all play that we know there's only 21 million divisible by 8 decimal spaces. and he who has the most mining power wins. If you can do that, then you're sitting pretty. But if you can't, then you can earn your way up if you're smart. And that on a global scale hasn't been done before, so it's exciting.
This is and in addition to just that, though, the money part of it. Before I let Gabriel go, in addition to just that, there's the truth part, right? We've never been able to have immutable history, not ever in the history of mankind. So in addition to money, the truth about money, we actually just get truth.
And then all the technologies that converge off of that simple fact.
That simple fact, we finally have the ability to create truth. Basically, is what really Bitcoin, not to get too philosophical, but Bitcoin really is the first tool that we've been able to create truth with, globally recognizable, immutable truth. But yeah, so amazing stuff. Gabriel, would like to hear your opinion. We're saving the best for last. No, would like to hear what your opinion is on this. What do you think is the main factors driving this, and do those any of those on the web on that article play anything?
Putting the pressure on me now. Well, I just want to point out that I did not wear my donut shirt today because donuts are little zeros, and once the price gets into this type of bullish phase, I'm tending to avoid the donuts. So I'm hoping, my donut shirt is hoping that maybe there's a little drop off after the halving. I can wear it one more time before the big bull phase that I'm expecting actually comes upon us. Speaking of expecting, I've read some people that are surprised on the internet, just in random comments. People are surprised about the recent price moves, and that is just really funny to me. Because these type of moves were happening all the time 3 years ago, and to think that they would never ever happen again is completely delusional. So this article, I don't think it's very well written. I mean, it's grammatical, but it doesn't have very much depth to it. The Brexit thing, I think, is indirect at best. That is basically the logic would go like this. Brexit makes EU, start to collapse and go down, makes Euro start to collapse and go down, which makes banks a chain reaction crashing, and then then Bitcoin gets my door open. Yeah, it's better. Thanks. Just fixing my internet here a little bit. So that would be the chain reaction, as Blake was referring to the
Black Swan.
Yeah, the Black Swan idea. Nobody. So right now, as you pointed out, you're talking to your mom. She's like, "Wow, she's actually starting to maybe get it." One of the reasons that is because this since it's been 8 years since 2008, and the crisis is starting to hit home that this whole debt fuel paradigm is a total joke. So now mainstream jerk-offs like George Soros and other big giant investors are all coming out claiming that there's going to be a bear market, and that didn't happen last time until the end of 2007 and the beginning of 2008, which was just a few months before the crash. So so it's starting to become more of a mainstream narrative, and I think in that sense, Brexit could play in a very indirect way, but not really. And I also want to point out this Black Swan idea. Bitcoin is one of the possibilities. There's bank failures. There's Greece defaulting. There's Venezuela crashing. It's terrible. There's all these different sparks that could light the fire of a global economic meltdown. And Bitcoin, in my opinion, is a top contender. Bitcoin itself, people could just shunt their wealth out of all those systems, which would completely collapse them and destroy anybody who is crypto unaware's wealth. So that, keep an eye on Bitcoin for that. I think it's a bit of an outside chance, but Bitcoin itself over the next 5 years is a contender to be a major factor in a global economic paradigm shift and possible collapse too. Blockchain hype being part of the Bitcoin price going up, I think there's a 0.00 chance, if not a negative chance, of that actually being true. I don't think it has anything at all to do with that. That's total hype. It's total bullshit. It might have an indirect situation where some jackass working at a hedge fund heard about Bitcoin because of some crap software vendors, blockchain, thing trying to hawk bullshit, useless software to their company, and they're like, "Hey, Bitcoin? Yeah, I thought I heard. Oh, that's pretty cool. Reminds me of my Austrian economics class I took." So at most that, but otherwise no effect. Having, I think, at least 3/4 of the effect right now is due to the upcoming halving. I think that it's it's an expected effect. It's a real effect. And if I was a gambling type and knew anything about trading and technical analysis, I would have set up some serious margin longs because I knew that this month was going to be a big upturn. But I just don't really trust my knowledge level for that, so I don't do any trading. The low liquidity section of the article is interesting, but I think that's the other side of the equation. So I think this article says factors, and really I think of that as like sparks, whereas I think the low liquidity in the Bitcoin exchanges is really more of a fuel that's just static, and I really disagree with Dan about that even possibly being a factor in the same way that the other things are. I think that it's just as easily, low liquidity can just as easily cause very quick moves in the opposite direction. Low liquidity just increased volatility, basically.
Well, there's low liquidity right now because people want to hold on to it.
I think what I heard, I know you kept saying low liquidity, but I was just looking at the header there, and I like the word demand. It is. What do you think about just demand? Ignore liquidity.
I think that would be
just natural.
Demand, saying that there's more demand during a price rise is a truism. It's useless. Why even mention that in the article?
Okay,
obviously, there's more demand. The price is going up.
Yeah, I like. You're right. You're right.
I guess it could be only supply going down, but I don't know. Inflows and demand is just basically saying supply and demand. So obviously, if the price is going up, the supply and demand relationship is changing.
You're right. What do you think about organic, just kind of natural demand, though? Is that
You're
growing?
talking about use cases growing.
Well, yeah,
but also
more
like
use cases, more convenience, more
but
businesses.
It's so nonlinear. I disagree with that too. It's so nonlinear. The use cases have barely changed since 2 years. They've gotten a little bit better. The use cases have gotten better, but they certainly haven't changed much since 3 months ago. I mean, we've got parabolic in the price. So to say that the use cases suddenly changed over the past 5 weeks is totally speechless.
Yeah.
Well,
I buy that.
The changing use cases are like
gradual.
The example you gave was the VC hedge fund operator. Like, you can discount it, but that's a lot of potential capital flowing into a system that doesn't have that anymore. It's just making the pie bigger.
Right.
And if the pie,
but that hasn't changed much in the last 5 weeks, though. I mean,
the price. Literally has doubled. More than doubled over the past couple.
Yeah, it's just the FOMO cycle, the fear of missing out.
That's pure
cycle
speculation.
is gonna start kicking in.
Pure speculation. Now, of course, the speculation, of course, we know why it's there, right? The main reason, of course, is having the built-in supply. So, but it is speculation that's driving these crazy prices, because obviously Bitcoin is not, all of a sudden more than 2 times useful than it was a couple weeks ago. Right?
Right, exactly.
And it's still that complex system,
right,
where everything is interdependent with each other.
Right.
We have multiple variables multiplying with each other, multiple times a day.
Yeah, I do agree with Dan that it's gotten more useful, and I think that's a gradual upward pressure on the price that's been happening. It's happening constantly, even during a crash. There's the usefulness is still increasing. For example, in 2014, when the price was going down steadily, the usefulness was actually increasing and fighting that, but other factors obviously outweighed it. But I think that's the usefulness is just going to increase so much more. It's incredible, just from the commits being put into the software recently. It's just incredible the type of exponential use cases that will be growing over the coming months and years. And then, of course, China, I think, is a big factor. I think the Chinese are very savvy these days with their investment. They're also very risk friendly, and they're very distrustful of government because they've lived in a communist country for so long. So the savvy people there are much less Kool-Aid drinkers than they are, say, in the U.S. I think. So I think, and there's also there's also the rumor mill. In China, it's very, as far as I'm aware, there's the societal structure is a bit more clan-ish, or larger families, large groups of friends. And I think what generally is a part of the issue that's going on is when the Communist Party that controls the finance sector, as much as they can, and they set up fake markets that are even more fake than the ones we have in the States, which are already pretty fucking manipulated and fake. When the top finance ministers in China decide they want to do a devaluation of their currency, which is pegged to the US dollar and does not flow freely and is controlled by force and coercion. When they decide we're going to do a devaluation in 36 hours, they tell their uncles and friends and cousins, and 32,000 people find out before 5 billion people find out. Those people start buying. System. Yeah, those people start buying, and their friends start buying because they're like, "Oh my God, he's buying Bitcoin," and that has happened twice in a row now. Where just before a deval of about 1/3%, there was a big rush up. So I definitely think China is falling apart. And plus, and just regular Chinese.
Crypto never sleeps.
Yeah, and then there's just the Chinese that are not connected, who are like, these guys are devaluing the yuan here because they're broke, and this whole debt bubble is crazy. And all you have to do is go on, what's it called, Tor, and see and check out some Western news sites, get your friend who speaks English well, and start figuring out what's going on. This is a huge bubble in our economy, and they're devaluing the yuan. So I'm just going to buy some Bitcoin because this stuff really looks like a good thing. And I can't even send my money out of the country. I can't even go buy dollars, or it's hard to buy real estate in Vancouver anymore because it's so high. I can't afford that, so I'm just going to throw my $2,000 into Bitcoin. So there's a bunch of those guys in China too, and they're looking at the halving as well. The halving.
I have a question, just kind of for fun while we're talking about what could affect the price and if the EU might be falling apart and if China has weird stuff going on over there for whatever reasons. What do you guys think, Trump and or Hillary? Yeah, I'm not saying we should vote for the one that's going to destroy the economy because it might make Bitcoin go up. But I don't know much of anything about either one, about their policies, or I don't follow.
Are you bringing political discussion into?
I'm just wondering if you think that either one or both are likely to just introduce policies or something that will destroy banks, that will one of them have a ton of inflation and ruin the dollar.
In regards to Bitcoin.
Well, let me say something real quick before you go, Blake. Let me say something real quick. So before you can answer, you have to understand the system, Daniel. First of all, the president is a puppet. He has no control over the financial system, not one bit, not even allowed in the Federal Reserve physically. So second of all, the banks are going to make the decisions. It's not going to be the president. So, and then third of all, of course, either one wins, they're both going to play out the exact same policy. And just as they're going to continue the presidency that Obama did, which continued Bush's, which continued the one before him, they literally since the 80s, the presidential direction has been very clear, and that is to grab as much power as possible through the means of fear. But anyway, sorry.
If they're trying to grab power, then maybe that means they will grab power over the banks, or they will. But I don't even. No.
When I say they're going to try and grab power, I mean that the presidency itself, and the presidency itself is the Illuminati, is the shadow banking system, is at the very top. The shadow banking system is what controls it. So when the president grabs power, they're grabbing power for the banks.
Okay, all right. I'm okay with that. But then. Okay. All right.
Sorry.
I just thought.
Sorry. So basically, what it does is it kills your whole question. Because basically they just can't. They can't do anything. So sorry.
All right. That's.
I'm sure there's a Latin phrase for that.
Blake had something to say, and then if Gabriel's got something to say, then please.
Yeah. So I don't know. The only answer I'd like to give for this one is in terms of Bitcoin. If I had to make my guess, I would say Trump would be more prone to seeing the value in Bitcoin, and Hillary would prefer to imprison or indenture anybody who uses it.
Status
That's
quo.
Just me.
Yeah, status quo. Yeah, that's true. No, definitely. The way that Trump's president, if Trump was president, he would do a whole things a lot different, but the end result would be the same, which is to grab on. Gabriel,
I'm not sure I buy that. What both of you guys said, actually, I'm not sure I agree with that. First, I'd like to say though that on my Twitter timeline, which includes several members of the Nakamoto Institute, which is guys that are very, very Austrian economics and libertarian. They seem to have a definite preference for Trump. They think Trump's going to collapse the economy faster and cause Bitcoin value to go up. Strictly, that's why they support Trump strictly because they think that it's going to help Bitcoin. I don't really know about that, but first of all, I don't necessarily think Trump will be more is likely to be more. I mean, certainly Clinton is guaranteed to be against Bitcoin, but in my opinion, Trump, I very much doubt it. I mean, I guess there is a random slight chance that he'd be into it, but I think he'll probably be just against it and just use that as another rallying point for power grab once he gets to the office.
I don't see him as an enemy of freedom. I'll put it that way.
Well, it's just the problem is that it's just too easy to use as a scapegoat, and Trump loves scapegoats.
Yeah,
and it's just too easy to use.
I definitely see Trump as an enemy of freedom, but he's just a potential at this point because he's never held office. Just wait. All these jackasses that want these
I'm not sure how anybody can say that Trump wants freedom when all he wants to do is build walls. Building walls is not building freedom, my friend.
He's made some really fucked up statements that are super anti-libertarian.
Coming from purely security standpoint, that I value walls because walls are pretty damn valuable when there are threats in the world, and I do know that there are threats. So that's the only reason I have that mindset. So walls don't bother me. What bothers me is the disregard of law.
So
if you make law, then you need to uphold it and be held accountable to the same laws that you create. If you don't do that, yeah.
So sure. So let me ask you this: do you value? Do you think that? Do you value more walls or technology? What do you value more as far as?
Well, the wall was a technology, but technology. Yeah, technology makes the walls less necessary in the long term. But
that's kind of what I wanted to hear.
Metal shards still go through anybody's body. Yeah,
for sure.
And that's not changing anytime soon. And there's gonna if the economy starts collapsing, there's gonna be a lot more of that stuff going on.
Well, I'm sure you know better than us, Blake. But more than likely, what's going to happen is that more and more robots are going to be getting killed than people.
That would be great. If I thought about that before. We need to just come to an agreement. Hey,
let's do
robot war. We'll do a robot war on the moon, and it'll be controlled by faster than light communications. Everyone will have a pod.
They already got them looking like. I mean, they got them going pretty good. I mean, they already got them looking like two people in a horse suit that are drunk. I mean, they really got them. They almost got it. Almost 100%.
Let's just give all the president's Xbox controllers and a copy of Call of Duty and let them duke it out in there.
Yeah, name your game. Like we got to do Hearthstone or Deathmatch. What do you want here? We'll just decide all affairs like that. We should do small block, big block Counter-Strike games. We can do it for charity.
Well, I'll do it if it's Overwatch. I'll play Overwatch more. That's fine. All right.
Any game, I'm down.
Okay. Before we go on to the next topic, we're going to pretty much. It looks like we only have really time for one more topic. So before we move on to the next topic, if everybody could please tweet out, Facebook out the show. Let everybody know, let all your followers know we're here talking Bitcoin. Try to get as many people into the conversation as possible. Try to get as much reach as possible. The final topic we're actually going to do here is going to be, will the DAO become Ethereum's empty gox? I wanted to get this in here because I wanted to get a little bit discussion going.
We're dropping the Beauty on article of why
what was that? Which one was? Oh, okay, we could do that one too. If you think that one's more important,
I just pulled out a bunch of quotes from that because Beauty on Akin Fernandez is so good at aphorisms and things. We don't have to discuss it that much, but I just wanted to point out a few lines, classic lines in that article.
So definitely. So let me then we'll go to you first. When we so first yeah. So then the next article will be why central banks will fail at digital currency here, and paste that in. And we might have time for one after that too. But so let's see. So that is the link. And yeah, so why central banks will fail digital currency. I'd like to pull this up for myself here real quick. I didn't have it pulled up prior.
So I follow this guy on Twitter. His Twitter name is beautyon_. And apparently his name is Akin Fernandez. He is, I believe he lives in the UK. And he's very entertaining with his very extreme pro-Bitcoin and anarchist tweets. They contain a lot of really juicy nuggets and really good aphorisms, but also some really, really hardcore stuff. He's also a Trump supporter, I think, for the same reason, because he thinks it'll make Bitcoin go up. But I have to say, this is an article that outlines a response to an event that was recorded at the Federal Reserve with a guy named Adam Ludwin, who's basically trying to hawk his, blockchain tokenless permissioned ledger to the crooks at the Federal Reserve. And so basically what this guy Fernandez has done is pointed out all of the fallacies and ridiculous bullshit and a couple of correct things that Ludwin included in his talk at the Federal Reserve. And I just kind of wanted to point out a few really excellent quotations and also some things that I didn't quite agree with in the article, if you guys don't mind. So first off, a little quote. And when he talks about vendors, he's talking about software vendors who are trying to sell permissioned ledgers, basically the intranet of cryptocurrency. What these vendors are leveraging is computer illiteracy. It's a safe bet that none of the attendees listening to this talk understood a single software concept that was presented to them. They were there merely to represent their organizations. And I love he grabs a couple of slides from the talk too, and there's a slide in there where there's a bubble that says Bitcoin innovation on the left, and it breaks into two. And on one side it says Bitcoin and altcoins, and on the other side it says blockchain. And it's just so stupid. The top one goes Bitcoin and altcoins, and then create money by creating new assets, and then it ends up no network operators. Ooh, no network operators. That's bad. And then the blockchain one says create digital money by digitizing existing assets. That way you'll stay rich. And then it says here financial institutions and/or central banks, which that's great. They get to stay in power. It seems like it's a dead end. That it's no network operators instead of the incredible paradigm shift that's going to bring wealth to the bottom 99%. And then I love the focus on software vendors that have financial connections, like this Ludwin chump, but they don't have any vision. If they had vision, they would be BitPay or Shapeshift or another one of these, or Purse.io, a company that is using Bitcoin and not trying to leverage this technology for gain of people that are already crooks. So it's great to see that being called out. One of the things that this is not journalism. CoinDesk is just flailing. They are all over the place. They've got pro-blockchain articles. They've got Beautyon, which is a blog post. And I'm sure he was like, sure, I'll accept your Bitcoin so you can run my totally extremely opinionated article that doesn't really give context and is full of total blanket statements that are coming from a really hardcore anarchist perspective without really backing it up with at least a few quotes from Murray Rothbard or something. But this is a ridiculous, not journalistic article that I actually agree with a lot of it, but it's not really journalism. But he actually says in this article, Bitcoin is money twice, and then at the end says Bitcoin is not money. What he actually means is Bitcoin is not only money. It has so much more. So he calls out this Ludwin guy for calling for when he's explaining how Bitcoin works. He says that users send digital objects to each other, which is really, really not true and extremely misleading. I mean, you're sending messages to the network that gets to them eventually, but it's definitely not sending digital objects. Unlike something like MaidSafe, but that's true digital data cache, where you're actually sending a chunk of data that leaves your vault and enters there, and you no longer control it. They're actual numbers that you're sending back and forth. That's much more like the traditional digital cash from the 90s than Bitcoin, which is just entries on a ledger, and you're sending messages back and forth that are signed locally. Anyways, so a few more quotes. Now a tool emerges that solves problems they did not even know they had. These are the central bankers. And they cannot accept that they have been wrong about something central to their existence and identity their entire lives: money. Bitcoin respects your human rights. I love that. In a world where there is a monopoly of force in the market, bad ideas can be made to appear to succeed. That's the situation we're in right now with every market in the world. Half of it is completely manipulated, just totally manipulated. The other half is probably manipulated because it's a paper asset representing something that's not there. The radical transparency of Bitcoin is anathema to the Fed, and they will never accept that everyone everywhere on Earth will be able to audit them by downloading and querying their private blockchain. I disagree with what he says here. You could not have two systems, a digital altcoin dollar and the old Oracle paper systems running in parallel. I don't really see why they could do that. They won't maintain their fungibility for long, and they'll constantly get hacked. But I mean, you could have your janky wobbly cart rolling down the highway for a mile or two, here and there.
And they're going to do it. They're going to
try. Yeah. I mean, they'll be able to do it, but with enough guns, preventing people from, attacking your cart going down the highway full of potholes, you can probably, move it slowly and chunky.
I think they're, again, I don't think they're going to be able to make anything illegal, right? So they're just going to try to put out their private crap. It's going to compete in the free market, the real free market, and it's going to get destroyed and owned, especially, well, actually, I think I agree with you where I think it's going to get hacked before it ever actually gets beaten in the free market, but.
Yeah, well, that's actually getting beat in the free market now.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. That is an exactly same thing. This is
it is.
Yeah, go on. Okay.
No, go ahead, please.
Yeah, so here's another quote. This is the explicit purpose of Bitcoin: to eradicate the central banks and put the money function out of reach of regulators permanently. People are asking the wrong questions about Bitcoin. One of these wrong questions is, what role should we, the state, play in the emerging digital asset economy? The answer is you have no role to play. You are now nothing more than peers on the network at best. You will only be tolerated if you provide a useful service. Here's a quote that I don't necessarily agree with, which is, the governments have played no role at all as inventors or funders at the infrastructure stage of a Bitcoin. It is a perfect black swan emerging from Pandora's box. They could. I'm sure that parts of the cryptography and things were inadvertently funded, and for all we know, this could be a cabal in the NSA that's actually trying to bring down the Fed. So the government actually could have, indirectly
that's
and
interesting.
unwillingly supported Bitcoin. Yeah, but that's obviously
that would be a good movie.
Yeah, right. You will offer yourself. That's what David Wilcock says. I didn't make up that idea.
We already have the most perfect villain that has ever existed, right? The most terrible, most villain, which is the central banking system.
As long as the leader is bald and they have a cat.
That's right. That's right. Lasers. Bitcoin should use lasers on each Bitcoin.
$10 billion.
That's right. 10 billion market cap. You will offer your quote. You will offer yourselves as consultants, guardians, guarantors, and arbitrators. The answer to all of your offers will be, no, thank you. That's to the central bankers, right? They want to be middlemen, right? And this is their end. I don't think. That's it. Those are all my quotes.
Okay. Well, real quick, I just want to comment on that. One of the things you said, which was, that fiat or paper money couldn't exist along with Bitcoin, and it definitely can, obviously, because it is and it will for some time.
I think he means a crypto altcoin in.
Oh, okay.
Parallel crypto altcoin along with paper.
And again, even that can exist for a little while. Yeah, especially with the amount of money that they want to throw at stuff. But it's just when you play it out, even as short as 10 years,
it'll be really
no
hard.
choice.
They'll be pegged too. So what happens when that private altcoin gets hacked? Then you have to peg it. Then you have to print all that money that was in there. You have to print it up every time it gets hacked.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a great black swan right there. If they make an altcoin and it gets hacked, they'll have to print the amount. Let's say, okay, we've got 4 trillion in our new altcoin. Gets hacked, and they have to print 4 trillion USD.
Well, see, the trick would be if they found a way to be successful on their own chain that has no, like, if they don't allow trading between Bitcoin, but they kind of have to, because otherwise, what the hell is the point?
Yeah. Again, you can't have an intranet without the internet. It'll be completely useless.
So, and that's what I was saying earlier. Like, that's why all of these altcoins, call them altcoins, but they still add value to the network. So there's more liquidity and there's more flow going back and forth through the network for Bitcoin. So, and
that's seeing the forest through the trees.
Yep. So
really
and if the Fed coin, they make their digi-dollars or whatever the hell they're going to call them, it's going to have a really, really stupid acronym. It's going to be stupid.
When you look at the forest, when you can really see it, and when you look at it as a whole, all of these altcoins, Ethereum, all these things, they're going to just do nothing but explode Bitcoin into the next, into the stratosphere, because they're going to add value, features, Gabe, we're letting Gabe back in here, but they're going to add value, they're going to add features, they're going to add people, they're going to add talent, they're going to add to the ecosystem in huge ways, and we're going to, exponentially step off that to the next thing. So, for sure.
And if Fedcoin doesn't offer anything other than being able to pay taxes with it,
and that will be the only thing that they can offer, right? We know they're not going to be able to
maybe not be bad. Which maybe that's not a bad thing. I mean, maybe if they eliminate the income tax, I'd be a happy camper if I could pay that in a side chain U.S. digital currency. But
they're just never going to be able to enforce it, man. They're not going to be able to.
They'd have to appeal the 19th Amendment or whatever to get rid of.
Well, basically, in order to make a Fedcoin even work, again, they'd have to outlaw everything else, and since they can't do that, they're going to have to compete, and as they compete, they will get obliterated. Because we know that the Fed will not be able to outcompete the rest of the world, which is all working on Bitcoin, because Fedcoin is centralized. Only people authorized will work on that. Entire rest of the planet working on Bitcoin.
I'm cool if the IRS goes away. I got no issues with that.
Yeah, it will. We will restructure our tax system. We will restructure our financial system. We will restructure our political system, and all of this in the next 2 decades. Dramatic restructures. Because why? Because the system is collapsing. Everything around it, politically, financially, everything is collapsing, and we have to make some changes. And there's people out there that are smart enough, that are ready at work, that are doing that. So those are the people that are working on Bitcoin, building a new financial system. Those are people working on, new types of growing fruit, new types of ways of growing larger amounts of food in a smaller amount of area. All of these things, we're all working towards that goal. So we'll see what happens. Do you guys got time for another topic?
Real quick, I want to just say I like your first point, Gabe, about this is just how this guy is kind of hardcore, and he's
I love it.
He's like that's the first thing I thought of when I was reading it. This
guy's hardcore.
You gotta check out his tweets, man. They're so intense.
He says some things that are I like his spirit. I don't know if Bitcoin was definitely created by anarchists who are explicitly planning to overthrow the system, but I like your spirit, dude. So CoinDesk, it is in the opinion category. I don't really care what they run. They can
Especially
post whatever they want.
Paid for it.
Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah. So whatever, they can post what they want. If it seems legit, it seems legit. If not, whatever. So
yeah, for sure. Cool. All right. Well, if everybody's going to stick around, then let's just do one more topic here, because I kind of wanted to get the DAO in here at some point, because it is still super relevant, still big, still blowing up over 170 million. So I want to bring that in here. So this is the latest article, and before we switch to that, real quick, just want to ask everybody in the room to please go ahead and tweet out that we're watching the show. If you can use Twitter, make sure you use hashtags, because obviously that will bring us more reach and things like that. So tweet out or Facebook out that we're here talking Bitcoin, and we'll move on to the next topic. So the article is entitled, Will the DAO Become Ethereum's Empty Gox? So first, I'd like to, let's go to Gabriel first and see what you think about this article. Is the DAO going to become the next empty Gox?
I do not really feel that this is a valid comparison. First of all, I don't think empty Gox was an empty Gox in the way that they mean it. I never bought that. I was never worried about the Bitcoin ecosystem. I was never worried about the perception people are going to like us anymore. I don't give a shit about Gox. Any idiot that had any money in Gox deserved to lose it, as far as I'm concerned. 18 months before Gox went down, they were having massive problems. It was not secret. I was like, I want to buy some Bitcoin. Let's check out this Gox place. Oh, it's obviously a complete fucking fraud. It took me like 7 minutes.
It's a little bit harsh, Gabe, but for sure, I feel you. I was definitely out of there a good year before,
right?
Because of the stopping of withdrawals.
Yeah. 18 months before it was rumbling, and a year before it was pretty clear that it was a useless piece of crap, and you wanted to get out of it. And by the time it actually crashed, it's like I couldn't believe, wow, that many people thought they had Bitcoin there, and it's like, don't you understand the whole point of Bitcoin? It's not a wallet, dude. You just get your Bitcoin and put it in a paper wallet or whatever most secure place you can put it. It's just silly. So Gox failing had very little to do with Bitcoin. It happens to be a new type of fraud that's wasn't quite possible before, but it really kind of almost was. There was, fraud and digital currencies that people tried to do. They weren't that huge and successful, but so I don't think Gox really was that bad. I think it's good. It flushed out the early movers in the system that were unprofessional. It's great. We got toxic people that had funded the Bitcoin Foundation, which is a toxic, group of people and a toxic game. It got them, funded them. So this is all a lot of toxicity that was flushed out of the system, and that's what happens in functioning markets, guys. So the DAO is really different than Gox. It's not a private company. It's not an exchange. It's totally different. But I see the point that the DAO's failure could reflect poorly on Ethereum, but I think it's actually the same thing again. It's like the Ethereum guys are only tangentially or involved in this. It's the Slockit guys that made it, and they agreed to participate a little bit because they thought it was a cool experiment. You listen to Vinay Gupta; he doesn't even know much about it. He's the community organizer for Ethereum. And so, this is not an Ethereum thing. So once again, anybody who's superficial enough to believe that the DAO reflects on Ethereum's usability or whatever, it deserves whatever's coming to them if they, whatever. It's just kind of silly comparison. But there are some useful nuggets of data in the article about the DAO and the concerns about it and stuff. I think it's a really unexpected and big experiment that I was pointing out to Boris earlier. It really highlights the incredible capacity for bootstrapping that cryptocurrency ecosystems have, where every time there's a bump in the value, like for example Ethereum, all that money in the DAO is from Ethereum people, new Ethereum millionaires, or new Ethereum people who made several $1,000s on this experimental new currency that want to support it. So that's a bootstrapping effect that the internet, for example, didn't have. The internet had bootstrapping in other ways, but it did not have a direct monetary bootstrapping. Just like the first and second and third big bubbles in Bitcoin created these millionaires who then flooded, the early ecosystem with VC capital to make these monies, and now we've got another layer of bootstrapping. So this is like bootstrapping squared, where you got, the currencies are creating the means for funding funding platforms, and the funding platform is the thing that then creates the company. So that's where we've got the synergistic relationship between cryptocurrencies and crowdfunding. And that synergistic technological relationship is going to get more and more powerful in general in society as more and more technologies are added in, like people point out, Internet of Things, drones, AI, blockchain, the cryptocurrencies, crowdfunding, all these different things working together are going to create incredible, totally new, crazy shit that none of us could have foreseen.
I totally agree. I mean, we're basically, people are basically trying right now today, trying to predict, Facebook when we're at, Netscape. So it's really interesting to see, Bitcoin continue to evolve because, before crypto, you had to ask yourself, like, how are we ever going to really fund like true change, and things like that in the world. And now that we have Bitcoin, we thought maybe it was just going to be Bitcoin, but now that Bitcoin is creating all these other hybrid amazing technologies like Ethereum, and then what's going to come out of Ethereum? So far it's been the DAO, but what else? I mean, it's just going to get really crazy, really fast, and exponentially grow. So we have the $150 million DAO, right? Well, the next one's probably going to be like 300 at least, right? 300 or 400 million that's gonna get put into it. So we're just growing exponentially. It's crazy. Blake, what do you think about this? Do you think that the DAO is going to be the next Mt. Gox?
Yeah, I agree with both you guys. I don't think the analogy really. I read that and it didn't make sense to me. Two entirely different purposes and two entirely different reasons for existing and different threat vectors and everything. So I'll admit I knew about the DAO and I pretty much anticipated it would be big. I think I said 15 million ether, so I was off. I overestimated. But I was tracking that stuff with Slockit and I was really interested in that. So I put a good percentage of my holdings in, and it's exciting for me because I have a lot of ideas, but I don't know how the hell to make them. So I might be able to put a couple of ideas together and get them proposed on there.
This is just the beginning, man. I mean, the DAO is just the first version. I mean, just give that a few more years, and you will have. You already have unlimited platforms already with just like between Indiegogo, Kickstarter, and stuff like that. But now you're going to have a crypto platform, and then soon you'll have completely 100% uncensorable crypto platform. I mean,
2 years
everybody in the world is going to be able to innovate.
Yeah, I mean, this is a very, very interesting topic to me. The DAO is a little bit centralized, where there's curators, and it's relatively. It's a relatively human-based system, but I actually released a little sort of non-technical white paper, something that I called Make Chain, which is based on technology that never got completed by this a Canadian developer called Get Chain, which is a decentralized GitHub. So if GitHub.
Oh no! Did we lose Gabe? Gabe was having difficult internet connection all night, so that's probably why. But yeah, Gabe will be back in a second. We'll let him finish his thought. I guarantee you he'll remember it. He'll write it down. He won't forget it. But yeah, it's crazy, man. The DAO. I didn't think it was going to get this big, but I mean, it's just hard to predict these things. Like I really wish I would have taken out a large loan right before the halving, but I was busy paying off credit cards, like the rest of us.
Yeah. Let me get. Well, actually, on that note, I just saw that Ethereum's up to like $18 right now.
Oh yeah, remember, Bitcoin's going to carry everything else with it. Bitcoin's going to take everything. Litecoin is like $5 again.
So
sorry, Gabe, continue.
That's all right. No, I got disconnected there. So yeah, they don't want me talking about it. No, this Make Chain, it didn't make a lot of waves because of course Get Chain never got completed, but it's a decentralized GitHub alternative. And once you have a decentralized GitHub alternative, it actually enables some interesting things. And what I was proposing was basically a clearinghouse for project funding. So you could have you have proposals that come in. It's similar to what the DAO did, except totally decentralized. There's no curators or anything. There's just people reading stuff and talking about it on, of course, forums. But you use BitMessage to place your project proposal in, and then there's bids on the proposal, and there's a bit of a reputation system, right? So and then everyone gets paid in Bitcoin. So you have third-party arbiters, once again, that they're decentralized. So you can enter the system as a proposer or as a worker or as an arbiter. And so this is another sort of more decentralized solution that I was kind of envisioning, that we would need a decentralized Git in order to do it, because any programmer that you hire, you're going to be able to see, the code publicly, once the bounty is released. So, somebody, for example, Blake has an idea for a company. He puts up his proposal. He hires somebody else to come in and do an estimate on how much it'll cost and what will be needed. And then so you pay a little bit of money just to get the estimate, and then you put your crowdfund basically out there, and people make bids, or you put a bounty on it. And so it's a decentralized project funding platform. And I think we're going to see a lot of things like that coming.
Dude, you should submit that proposal, because I want that.
Oh yeah, I could
submit it.
I could submit it to the DAO. I could submit the chain.
Bootstrap your chain.
Yeah, because first we need to do make Git chain, and then, or take Git chain on GitHub and actually finish it, which is, hopefully they don't delete it because it's competing with them. But and then we'd have to build make chain on top of that. But it could be worth it. It would compete with the DAO directly, which is a very trippy.
See, that's what's going to be interesting, is when the DAO gets competition, and the whole market starts to.
Maybe it'll fund itself. Maybe it'll fund its own disruption.
I think there's value in that, because you're ultimately because if there's a return on investment for the investors, even though they're investing in a competitor, it's just opening up channels of communication and trade. So I'd vote for it. I mean, I've got some tokens. I'd vote for it.
Awesome. Nice.
Cool.
Maybe I should work on it. Well, I think I would need to get some people smarter than me in game theory to review it for holes and problems.
For sure. Daniel,
put it in the proposal.
What do you think, man? What do you think of this craziness?
All right. So I've been trying to quietly listen as much as possible, and this is because I said right before we went on the air, but not actually on the air, that I was out of town and pretty highly distracted for the better part of the last month or two. And so I would, every once in a while, I would scroll through Twitter and I would just see Dow. And I'm like, what's going on out there? So I've read a few articles and I've tried to catch up recently, but I still have I didn't experience much of the hype myself, and I have a limited knowledge of it. So before I have some comments, but I want to ask a few quick questions. You mentioned, Gabe, that the DAO it's kind of curated and there's some human things involved. I want to know, to what extent do they control the money, or is it cryptographic voting and stuff? To what extent are humans involved?
I'm going to let Blake answer.
Yeah, the curator's role primarily and pretty much completely is adding. They do the final whitelist vote. So if a proposal is approved, they're the guards at the gate, I guess you say, of the contract. So their addresses are the multi-sig for the contract.
Okay, so
the ether in the contract.
So it is multi-sig, which is nice, but it is a human or a group of humans deciding, okay, this vote happened, so the money.
Knights of the Round Table, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They get a secret decoder ring that they all got to put together at the same time.
Okay,
so I don't know, maybe.
That's multi-sig is an amazing start. So I don't have that's helpful and valuable. But when this is legitimately, like you said, Vortex, that this is just version 1, when we see this completely operated as a giant smart contract, where there are no curators, and getting there is going to take a lot of
artificial intelligence, Daniel, to be able to select a project. Because right now that's the only part that the human plays is what is they vote on what project is most valuable. How would a smart contract know that unless it has artificial intelligence?
Oh, it shouldn't. I think that anyone should be able to submit stuff and people can filter it out and stuff. But here's the thing. Also, related to this version 1 idea, there are so many variables in here where it's like, well, how do people vote? How much can people vote? How often can they vote? What happens if, I know they're already talking about like, well, what if I accidentally vote? Or what if I just want to revoke my vote? I don't know. There's so many variables that need to be cryptographically worked through. Go ahead.
Sorry. I voted on a few things already, and so the way it works is, you send Ethereum to the contract from one address, and the reply to that is there are tokens from that contract attached to your address. So it's like it's your state. I mean, it's your address state, I guess. So it's the votes are cryptographic, and it's either a binary yes or no. But when you vote on them, you can't vote on it again. You can't withdraw the tokens. You can't move them after you vote.
Everything is cryptographically secured, it seems, Daniel.
Right, but that's what I meant by variables. Like, you can't do stuff with it at this point, or I don't know. Just a lot of
it's confusing.
A lot of rules, which I'm not saying they're the wrong rules. I'm just saying it's a rule that this could be the rule or this could be the rule, and nobody really knows what's the best and most legitimate way to set all the rules of this organization.
The first attempt.
Right. And so I'm not saying it's flawed because I don't know much about it. I'm just saying it is version 1. We don't know what the best structure is for a DAO, but they can vote to change it too. So that's a good thing. But
and I think what you're hitting on is important because this is an infrastructure project. Like, this is like, laying the first railway across the country because like what you said, I can't remember what the hell you said, but you said something that's, this is we can do whatever we want at this point. Like, if we want to vote for fracturing it into a bunch of different nodes of, fill out this form and get X amount of Ether sent to you on a loan. I mean, we can do that, and that's going to completely change the banking system. So it's making these things potentially possible, but we don't know the structure quite yet. But one thing they're working on now is, so I guess called liquid democracy, but basically you pick a representative, choose a representative to invest your tokens into, and they handle your tokens on a pool, on a multi-sig pool. So you don't have to think about it. You just say, trust this dude, I'm going to join into his pool. So
that's cool.
You get the ROI based on their votes.
That's interesting. It's like mining pools.
Yeah, but for business ventures,
it's more like representative democracy, but token.
Yeah.
And are you
representative plutocracy?
Are you saying it's liquid because you can revoke your support for that representative and go to a different representative if you want?
I think, and I guess I would assume that the tokens that you revoke, you only revoke them for the votes that haven't been voted on yet. So if there's
you can't revoke you can't revoke when it's in the middle of a vote.
Yeah, but you can still pull them back into your
Awesome. Yeah. So I think it's all cool. Everything, obviously even Bitcoin needs work. It's going to develop, of course. It's all cool. I'll just quickly touch on, is it like Mt. Gox? Just same thing. It might go down completely, but it's not Ethereum. I don't really know. I don't think I need to say much more. So
I'll at least get my Ether back. I know that.
And that's another reason what Gabriel was saying last show, actually, I believe, was is that a part of the reason why this ballooned to be so much money is, of course, in addition to the price of Ether rising, was the fact that everybody knows they can just take their money out, like it virtually any time. So yes, there's 170 million in it right now, right? But until the next DAO comes along that's smarter, better, and more user friendly or something like that, until other competition comes around, then it might slide to that. Point is that the way that it is set up is that it could be, gone, it could be here today, gone tomorrow.
Well, but the interesting thing is that when someone withdraws, they split their tokens out and destroy them. So it's a disinflationary effect. So it makes the other tokens more valuable.
Holy
due
smokes.
to decreased supply.
So in order to leave the system, exit the system, to get your Bitcoin back, you have to burn DAO tokens.
Yeah.
Ether, you get your Ether back.
Yeah, or you can trade them on to get your Ether back. Yeah, or you can still trade them, but you just can't, you won't be able to vote using them.
Well, that's interesting.
But you could also just sell them for Ether too. That's
And
now of course there's a new peg. There's a new peg on. There's always been a peg for DAO for ETH at Ethereum, but Poloniex has them now. You can do DAO for Ether.
Is it
and
floating?
of course,
it's not pegged anymore. It's floating because they've already. Wait. So you can buy new ones or sell or buy them from on an exchange. Do they cost the same either way?
Yeah, because they're still tradable, just like Ether. So
right, but they're still pegged, so they still only cost 1 Ether each.
No. Well, their current value is at point or 9. What would it be? 93 Ether. 93 Ether per. Yeah, it's actually below the Ether ICO level, so you're not getting your full. If I split mine, I wouldn't get all the Ether that I initially put in. I get 93% or so. But yeah, I think until a project goes through and gets approved, or a proposal goes through and gets approved, the perceived value of it is going to be less than Ether. But if there's a lot of splits and there's some interesting proposals that come through with potential good ROI on it, people might want some, they might want to vote on it, so it could increase the scarcity.
Interesting.
That's pretty cool that they were able to, write the software and everything just to do the initial offering so quickly. That's an advantage of Ethereum. Sounds like.
Interesting ride, yeah.
Man, that's crazy stuff, man. The DAO is going to be crazy. All right. All right, guys. Well, you know what?
It could totally fail, too. We don't know.
It could totally fail. Does anybody else have anything else to add on that? Nope. Okay, cool. Well, thanks, guys. Thanks so much, guys, for joining us tonight. We love talking Bitcoin. We had some great topics. You can find us here every other Monday at 8 p.m. Pacific. We're going to be talking Bitcoin. You can always find the show as well. We upload it to the World Crypto Network YouTube channel. So if you missed out, if you're watching live now and you missed out, you can always watch us on the World Crypto Network. We upload it either the same night or the next day. We upload it up there, so you can always find us and comment and see the show notes there. So, Daniel, tell everybody where we can find you, man.
All right, yeah. Tweet me at me and BTC, me and BTC.com. We last night, just for fun, we did a pure hangout. It wasn't a ton about Bitcoin. It was just us guys literally hanging out, talking about, I don't even know, guitars and nuts, whatever. So we're thinking we're going to try to do that a little bit more. But anyway, that's where I am. me and BTC.com. I think it switched sides, so it's up there somewhere.
Yeah, and what's funny is that the what we point to actually doesn't show up in the video on World Crypto Network. So,
all right.
So nobody can ever see it anyway, man, unless you're live. So I've stopped pointing to it because nobody can see it.
That just means they have to watch live, so they get the full experience.
Yes, and let's repeat that one more time. Really, guys, to get the full experience of the Bitcoin News Show, you have to come live so we can talk to you, so you can join in, so you can talk in the chat, so we can read out your chat, so we can really share a discussion. So awesome. Blake, where can we find you, man?
Yeah, just bmiles84 on Twitter.
Awesome. Gabriel, where can the world find you, sir?
Also on Twitter. I enjoy the Twitter platform. My name is at Gabriel D. Vine.
Awesome. And of course, you guys can always find me at theonevortex on Twitter. And of course, I'm in the World Crypto chat room under Vortex. And so we're here. And of course, we're here every other Monday. So thanks again for joining us, guys. Please come back. Until next time, just keep talking Bitcoin and try to join us again. So until then,
Bye-bye.
See you guys later.
Peace.